name's Niloo Sharifi. I'm a filmmaker and writer, and I was the curator of the Liverpool chapter of Arrival City, which was an exhibition by the Goethe Institute that was iterated worldwide in all different cities, and it was about Liverpool's history of immigration.
Flattery is immigration, we're all in the same boat. We can't achieve harmony if we all sing the same.
What are you doing to make work now? Are you making work now? If so, what kind of work are you attempting to make?
To be honest, I'm struggling to even know how to approach my usual work in this context. I'm like, what does it mean for me to be a filmmaker and a documentary maker at a time when I can't go out and talk to people? And then also, and then ways of doing it are things like this, doing things digitally. But then there's an extent to which I'm aware that like everyone's just struggling to survive the day-to-day of this as well. And sometimes it feels a more pressing contribution to just like check in on my friends. And I know people, mutual aid is just being revealed as a fact of life, I think, even outside of organizations. Like the people around me that are looking out for me and I'm looking out for them, like that we're helping each other survive in this really like organic way. And I think I'd like my practice to proceed from that natural symbiosis.
And I just wondered from you, Niloo, if you have some reflections on what's really contemporary right now in a COVID climate about social practice, about new ways of working that you're seeing, and about those things that are happening on those margins that maybe you could speak to.
This situation has forced people to work in these ways that maybe people were considering in the past. So like one example for me is that, I work a lot with musicians and stuff, and in Liverpool there's a strong scene that's it always stays at a specific level without it like you're saying, that the people are always on the margins and never really get into the center of the media circus. One thing I've noticed in Liverpool is that not working collaboratively really holds people back, because we're all here very far removed from where like the industry is happening, and the way to transcend your own limitations is to work together and to work with other people who are at a similar level to you. But the egotism of so many, like music is just one example, but like all these art industries, there's such an egotism at the center of it that really like stops people from collaborating sometimes and from harnessing that collective power that we could be using to go beyond our own personal limits. And I've had this idea in mind for a while of, how do we convince these musicians to swallow their pride to some extent and just like work together, and just, because with technology, it seems almost overdue for people to just be sending materials back and forth and like working in this really organic way and ideas all come together that wouldn't normally meet, but people are still so separated by the institutional context that they want to put themselves in. And I think this COVID situation, because everyone's forced into their homes and we've been removed from these institutional contexts, it's forcing people to just like return to the reason why they even started making the art that they're making, which is that it's for survival in a way. It's a means of surviving the day-to-day. And I think social practice is a weird one at the minute, because like as a filmmaker, like obviously I can't go out and make films now, and you feel a bit made redundant. You feel a bit redundant by the situation. You feel like what you do is unnecessary in a way, or like that can be your first response to it. But then on a day-to-day basis, what is getting people through this disruption to the thread of meaning? And that's engaging with art, whether it be film or TV or music.
So I'm wondering if there's what kind of really pressing things do you think, as a practitioner, as a community member, working with institutions as well as you have in the past, what are the things that you kind of hope or want to tell them or ask them to be doing right now in terms of social practice and being outside of a venue?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of art institutions are responding in a really interesting way. Like, they're creating opportunities for people to work outside of the environments that they're normally working in, and that should have been happening anyway, because not everything is accessible to everyone. But then that question is still a problem, because, you know, who has access to technology, who has access to Wi-Fi, like a lot of things about modern life that we take for granted are being exposed as, like, internet is seen as like a frivolous pastime almost in a certain way, like, whereas now we're starting to see it as like a utility that really changes how you can interact with the world, especially now that we don't have places in the same way. But I think I've been seeing some of the things that I've been hoping to happen go on, actually, like, you know, people commissioning artists to work from home, to make video work, to setting briefs that are not too confining. But then my concern is, like, are we just stuck in these echo chambers that are made up of whoever it is that we have email contacts for and that we follow on social media? Because, you know, it's not like you can go into schools, or like it's not like people can pass through and see work or be involved in a discussion in the same way that you wouldn't normally get. So my concern is that even though a lot of institutions are doing a lot to reach out to their networks and offer them opportunities, those networks are becoming increasingly self-selecting because of the situation.
Yeah, I hear that from the on the ground work that we do with communities, because we work with communities that are high on the socioeconomic deprivation register, and within them there's multiple different vulnerable characteristics, whether you're elderly or whether you're in a low-income household, on a 0 hours contract, or the access to the internet is very limited for many of these people, or their illiteracy might be a bit poor. But additionally, as you say, people look to things that they know already. Let's think about afterwards, if we can, and moving forward. Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about the digitization of everything, but I'm hoping we get along to the other side of it. And I wonder what a post-COVID art psychology might look like from your perspective.
So the thing I started to talk about earlier, I've been hoping to see musicians work more collaboratively in Liverpool, because everyone just tends to stay in their own little circle, and it means that no one really like progresses or goes outside their comfort zone. But now people are, by virtue of just being bored at home, collaborating with each other online in a much more free way, and posting it with a lot less trepidation. I think that openness is something I'd like to see continue once, hopefully, if society goes back to normal. It's you know, one thing that I don't want to say these celebrities have been saying about COVID being the great equalizer, because it clearly isn't. But the fact that we're all confined to our homes, it does strip you of the identity that you have when you're out in the world. And I think that's been, you know, a humbling experience for me, and I think for a lot of other people. But that can be a good thing, because we could all stand to be a lot less precious and a lot less a lot more open to the process of things. So I think in a post-COVID world, I'd like to see people just very openly collaborating and sharing in a way that I think they've been open up to do during this time because of having no other options. And also recognizing that this way of living is the reality for a lot of people all the time. Like a lot of disabled people can't go outside and be part of things. So it's like, how do we, and we're all sat here like, this is so awful being quarantined. It's like, how do we use this experience to be a little bit more compassionate